Welcome back to Second Breakfast, and welcome back to our discussions about Path of Exile. Yes, a couple comments on the last video, more than a couple comments
I was
pointed
like,
out
a couple?
that it was, well, I'm saying a couple comments on the last video pointed out that this was just me trying to convince you to play the game.
Oh, yes.
And just forcing you to sit down and listen to me compliment the game.
Dear listener, I have not played the game yet.
Well, to be fair to you, you're involved in some fairly beefy projects right now. Maggie's playing God of War and Baldur's Gate and Stardew Valley, and you're in some games
I'm
right
a little
now.
busy. That's a little teaser for things to come, by the way. We're going to do episodes about maybe all three of those, at least two.
Yeah, probably. But as a way to start, I mean, we got to talk about that last video because it was so big for us. And
Yes.
the Path of Exile community is just amazing.
Y'all are so nice. Like, I've never encountered a like subset on the internet of people that are so kind and welcoming.
Yes, I mean, the enthusiasm, the kindness, the helpfulness. There were hundreds of comments on that video, and I'm going to say maybe 3 of them were unkind.
And they're gone.
So
They're deleted.
So let's not even talk about those. That means
Yeah.
hundreds of organic people found this thing and talked to us and were helpful and kind and informative. And I think that's sort of what shaped this discussion, because this one's going to be a little different, and I think you'll see that as I work through the point I have to make here.
Okay, cool.
I am wrapping up Act 3 now.
Okay.
Remember, this is a 10-act campaign.
Okay, so yeah. And last time you had played Acts 1 and 2 or just 1?
I was in the beginning of Act 2
Okay, cool.
last time.
Gotcha.
So not a ton, but again,
Still.
it's a pretty big game.
You've doubled what you played before. So.
Right, and somehow I feel like each act keeps getting larger and more involved than the previous one,
Yeah.
which is good.
That's
But,
a great thing, yeah.
You can see this kind of world map screen for each act with all the locations that you can fast travel between, and there are more and more nodes and levels of things as you get further through the game.
That's awesome, because it sucks when you have a nice beefy Act 1 and then it's for the other ones. So.
We always talk about Diablo 3. Act 1 is the perfect RPG act.
It's so good.
Going through the castles and all that and ending up with
gosh.
the Skeleton King. It's almost a game unto
It's
itself.
its own game.
And I feel like that game chases Act 1 for the rest of the game
I
time.
agree, it does.
So this one having 10 acts, I was excited to see what the rest of the game held. Because the big thing I was talking about last time is locations. And somehow they just keep getting better. It's the locations, it's the colors, the lighting is incredible. Again, for a game that came out, 8 or 10 years ago, the moods that they foster with the colors, with the lighting, the enemy variety is incredible. Each new section has I was fighting apes.
Oh, interesting.
In a forest, and then I moved to a new section, there's a whole new group of animals and beasts and monsters. It really feels like with all these nodes on the map, I'm not just going through the motions. It feels like I'm going on true adventures.
Like you're actually exploring. Yeah.
Yes. I can't believe how expansive this thing is. So
Wow.
I wrote down just like a bullet point list of the locations I've seen. And this is just the new locations since our last episode.
Okay, cool.
Forests, riverways, ruins, crossroads, caverns, crypts, chambers, cities, slums, temples, sewers, catacombs, battlefronts, docks, libraries, archives, imperial gardens, slums. Did I already say slums?
You did say slums.
I did. Crematoriums.
Wow.
Shout out, Brother Samron.
That's amazing. That's
And
so
they're
cool.
all memorable. They're
Yeah.
all interesting, and they're all it feels like it's worth exploring them.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do the crypts and the things that are all underground, do they all kind of feel the same, or do they feel distinct?
No.
Or do the forests versus the river things versus the marshes, do they feel the same?
No, it all feels distinct. And
Okay,
I think
cool.
the biggest kind of demarcation line there is the lighting system. Because
Okay.
there are plenty of indoor or underground locations where it's basically dark.
Yeah.
And you're relying then on torchlight.
Oh,
Or,
interesting.
me playing more of a magician character.
So you've got glowy stuff.
Exactly.
Okay.
When I'm throwing around fireballs and electric powers, that there's light in that.
Well,
and
that's
that's how
pretty
you
cool.
illuminate things. So, no, I haven't felt like any of the locations were redundant.
Because I'm thinking something like Diablo 4, which looks beautiful, but after a while, a lot of the stuff starts to look the same. Like, oh, it's another underground thing. Oh, it's another, library. Oh, it's another forest,
Yeah, because we talked in the Diablo 4 discussions about how the art direction was pretty immaculate there.
Yeah.
And the problems were in the balancing in the gameplay. In Path of Exile, I love the gameplay and the balancing. And there are fantastic locations and art direction. It's not quite maybe as polished. Like there's that artist Brahm who we like, who's one of the lead kind of art directors for Blizzard for Diablo. I think you can feel his sort of mastery.
Yeah, I was gonna say, does Path of Exile's art direction feel consistent, or is it a little bit like, oh, these are kind of like, could you look at an image and know immediately that's a Path of Exile style location?
I think I could differentiate between Diablo at this point and Path of Exile, but even having seen some of the gameplay clips from Path of Exile 2, that is on the level of Diablo 4, if not looking better in some moments. But this one, I mean, it's sort of apples and oranges when you're talking about a game that came out so long ago, but it still looks incredible. And graphics are not the end-all be-all. It's the constant visual interest and distinction between levels that keeps me engaged. And this is where we sort of hit a hurdle. Because I know, and this is another thing people pointed out in the comments, because obviously there were blind spots in that first video. Because I was, 1.5 acts into a 10-act thing. And then there are hundreds of hours of Endgame that people are experts in at this point.
Oh, yeah.
Or if not thousands of hours, given some of the comments we got. But I know that this game is wonderfully voice acted, and I know the story is all fleshed out. But that is just not how I'm playing the game.
Okay.
And I took a long break after the last video, and I think it was because of this. Okay. Sort of this gulf. Because I only came back to Path of Exile almost incidentally. I was on a long and lovely, 2.5 hour phone call, and I just fired it up because I wanted something that I could play a little passively, which is usually how I manage RPGs and ARPGs like that. And blowing through these locations and exploring and tinkering with this combat, I fell in love with the game again. Because I wasn't feeling like, oh, I have to be doing it the right way.
Oh, like you have to pay attention to the story and notice all the story beats. Yeah.
Because those comments from the last video, which were so informative and encouraging, a lot of them were talking about how much they got out of the story and how engaged they were with the performances and the sort of the nuances of the tale that was being spun. And I felt like, well, if I'm not really doing that the right way, I'll go play something else for a while.
Yeah.
But for me, I think I've come to terms with Path of Exile being a gameplay pastime.
Yeah.
Because what hooked me when I came back is that I am an electric witch, as ever.
Yep.
I'm an electric witch in this. I'm an electric witch, or there are different, they slightly...
Sorcerer
magician. They
wizard.
slightly changed the terms. But, and I think it's an arc mage or something like that here. I am that version. A woman with electrical powers.
Yes.
In Path of Exile, in Diablo, and in Destiny.
Oh, that's interesting.
So all of these bottomless RPGs, that's just what I don't know why.
Yeah.
But that's what I loved when I came back to this game. What I like to do here is explore, clear these beautiful maps, fully fill in the maps and find all the secrets, and 100% all of the quests. It's got that checklist thing that I love. And the combat is so rich and deep. There are so many viable builds you can have for every class. But what I like, what tickles my brain, is to endlessly, joyously, almost exclusively spam ARC on everything.
Okay, what does spam ARC mean for the kids at home and me?
Spam meaning use this over and over. ARC is the ability I'm talking about.
Okay,
that's that electrical.
Thank you.
It's basically, instead of shooting like a long thing of lightning, it's almost a melee range. Of kind of blazing a bunch of electricity around me.
Very cool. Oh, yeah, I've seen that.
What's near me.
Yeah, very cool.
I mean, the gameplay on the YouTube version of this is just me doing ARC.
Yeah, take a look.
I toy with Fireball as a novelty occasionally, but mostly it's just ARC, and that means I can slot in a bunch of nodes and gems that enhance my ARC damage.
Very cool. I mean, this makes sense what you're saying, right? Because I was trying to think about what do you like in a game, and it really depends, because it's not like you're anti-story. You love story in some games. Thinking about like God of War, right, and plenty of others. But if you like these most obvious comparisons, like Diablo 3 and 4 and Destiny, I don't see you paying huge attention to the story in either of those. You're much more focused on the actual gameplay and the mechanics and the locations and just the fun exploring. So that makes a lot of sense that the story is not as important to you in this game, but you're still having a wonderful time. You're not skipping the story because it's bad. That's just not what you are looking for in this kind of game.
I'm gameplay first. I think,
Yeah.
on these sort of games that are almost more like hobbies because there is so much content there.
Right.
Because like the thing I love about Destiny, and there is no game with more flaws than Destiny.
Yeah.
But the reason I have adored it since 2016, and I tried the first one, but that wasn't for me. But since 2016, I've loved and defended this horrible game, is because of the flow state
Yes.
in the gameplay.
You've always talked about how fun it is to play.
Nothing feels better moment to moment than that. And it's the speed and energy. I mean, you always talk about how hectic it looks when
Yeah.
I'm playing Destiny.
Well, and like it should be noted, every time I see you playing Destiny, I don't see you like paying attention to story. I just see you like running around and shooting things. Like that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
You know, you're not like sitting like reading all the dialogue points and like paying attention to, like you're just playing and going.
Because
you know?
when I pop the ultimate and I can blaze electricity through anything I'm looking at, nothing comes close to the
It's
way that
very
feels.
fun,
It's
yeah.
very fun. So my gameplay loop that I think I'm coming to terms with in Path of Exile, I transition into a new map. I clear the entire thing, open all the crates, and I can open the crates using my arc. Instead of like clicking on all of them,
Oh, that's
I just
cool.
pop an ability and they explode.
That's very
It's
cool.
very satisfying.
I like that.
I find the waypoint so I can fast travel and sort of have
Yep.
this place unlocked. And then I repeat. Like that's the cycle.
Okay.
And if we accept the idea that, and I think we should, that there is a right way to play a game, you know, like God of War, if you're not paying attention to the story, you're doing it
Yeah.
wrong.
What are you doing? Yeah.
This probably isn't the right way, I guess, that we should be playing Path of Exile.
Right.
But by golly, it works for me. This is, and I feel bad because I believe the commenters when they talk about how great the story is. I believe that the story is great in this game and that it's very engaging. But for me, ARPGs like this, it is a thinking game. And I don't mean I'm thinking about the story. I mean it is a companion for music, audiobooks, art interviews, the stuff I listen to constantly.
It's a game. It's something to do while you're thinking about other stuff.
And I only pause that other stuff during Path of Exile when I need to strategize through the skill tree.
Sure.
The
yeah.
huge spider web of passive skills.
You can't listen to your podcast while you're figuring out your skill tree. Yeah.
And like I'm still doing the passive skill tree on my own. I know I could use a build guide and like perfectly optimize everything I'm doing. But when we had to do that in Diablo 4, because
I hated that.
we played the campaign before the game was balanced.
Yeah.
And I felt like we had to exactly match the meta of each class and work to a perfect, strict build guide to have any fun at all.
Right.
I really resented that.
Me too. That was not fun at all. It ruins the fun of exploring and trying to work out your favorite kind of build, you know?
The fact that I can do my own thing, like I can zoom out in the passive skill tree and see, oh, over here, there's something that's really going to upgrade my lightning damage.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I can work
I'll
my
work
way
towards
towards
that.
that.
Yeah.
And along the way, I can see, oh, I think this would help my build more, or maybe I'll move over here, I can refund some points. The fact that I can do that means I'm going to.
Yeah.
I don't need it to be the most scientifically effective build possible. I like the freedom, and I want to be able to enjoy it at my own pace.
Yeah. So can I ask you a question about the story? So what would have to happen to get you to like be interested in focusing on the story? Or is it just this is not that kind of game and it doesn't matter? Because you know, we had to pay attention to the story somewhat when we played like Diablo 4. I mean, that wasn't our focus, but we paid attention to it because we were like evaluating that when we were doing all of our coverage of it.
If it was split screen co-op and I was playing it with you because you like to play with the sound on, then I would pay attention to it.
Okay, because you
But
have
I just
to.
don't. I mean, I'll pulling it back to Destiny for a second. I pay attention to Destiny's story during the main expansion campaigns.
Okay.
If they give me an 8-hour story with a big bad and a tightly written story with like 3 or 4 main characters, which is what they do well. That's what Bungie has always done well with campaigns. That I tune into, like the Witch Queen expansion. Excellent story.
Okay.
Loved that. The Lightfall expansion, horrible story.
Okay.
It's like 50-50 there. Forsaken was a great campaign. Beyond Light was a great campaign. 3 other ones that I don't even need to name were terrible.
Okay.
Destiny 1 had no story. It was just like this weird abstraction, and you could read lore on their website to fill in the gaps.
Oh, jeez.
RPGs and story, it's tough.
Okay.
I don't know. If I was playing it with you, I would care, but I think I just don't about a
Interesting.
lot of these.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean I don't love the game, because the focus is, for me, that fast combat and the fairly simple quests.
Well, and it's cool that this game is designed to suit a lot of well, I don't know if its designs do this, but
it works.
In its design, it suits people who have different interests in what they want out of their game. If you just want great gameplay and cool locations, you've got it. Mm-hmm. If you just want really, really good story, seems like they've got it. If you want both, they've also got it. So that's nice, because it sucks when it's like, well, the gameplay's fun, story kind of sucks, or the other way around.
Right.
You know? So it's nice that it's got all of it.
And if we're talking about some of these commenters who are like experts on the game, some of them put in thousands of hours into Path of Exile. If the game has that much content in the end game, that can't all be scripted story.
Sure.
Right? A lot of that would be repeatable things and different tasks, kind of like the Nephilim rifts and the higher end game stuff in Diablo.
Yeah.
I imagine if you put it on a pie chart, most of those people's time with the game isn't story content. So I think everyone gets to this point in the game, or if you're replaying an ARPG, you're not following every time Deckard Cain opens his mouth in Diablo 3.
Yeah.
But the fact that this game's nearly endless and becomes a grindstone, I think it's very suited for the way I'm playing it here.
Great.
And so many people have told me that the campaign is really just the tutorial. And this is sort of the note I want to end on.
Wait, sorry, what do you mean by that?
Because there is so much content beyond the campaign.
Okay.
That basically the 10 acts are showing you the ropes, and then you get to do all this other shit.
Jeez, okay, very cool.
And honestly, I don't know if I'm going to play past Act 10, but I love this game.
Yeah.
And I'm psyched for Path of Exile 2. And I would enjoy, I think, playing with a different character. Like, I might re-roll with a different class after I finish the campaign here. But it's worth saying, again, it's going to take a long-ass time to even get through these 10 acts.
Yeah, okay.
If I'm only on Act 3.
Yeah.
And the question for you, and the question for the listeners, viewers, you can, right there in the YouTube comments, or secondbreakfastpod@gmail.com, or over on the Patreon, you can drop comments. I want to know, how do you play Path of Exile or ARPGs in general?
Okay, well, I will answer. And can you help me with some terminology? Obviously, I know action role-playing game.
Very good.
I know that Diablo is an ARPG. What is something like God of War? What is that? Is that also an ARPG? Because it feels so different.
I would call that like an action-adventure third-person game with light RPG elements. Because you can kind of upgrade things.
Right, yeah. But it's like, okay, cool. And then something like Baldur's Gate 3 is a CRPG. So that's different. That's as far as I need to get. Okay. Just to help me understand. Something like Torchlight. I've played Torchlight 2, I think. Yeah. That's an ARPG.
Yeah, I mean, that's from former Diablo developers.
Okay. Well, it's hard for me to say because I feel like I've been playing games for
especially Diablo.
Like 7 or 8 years at this point. But I still feel like I'm learning what I like and what I really want out of games. But I'm very much a author's intent sort of person, and so if there's a heavy story element, I'm gonna pay attention to the story. I also just like story. So in Diablo, for example, when I was first learning how to play Diablo 3 with you, and by that I mean first learning how to play a game with something beyond an original Nintendo controller. Hi, my name is Maggie. I didn't have video games growing up, so we're learning. Okay, I'm fine now, but it was a lot at the beginning.
You're in Baldur's Gate now.
I'm in Baldur's
You're in the
Gate
deep end of the pool.
Oh my God. We'll get to that. But so when I was first learning Diablo 3, I was very much focused on mechanics because that was what I needed help with. And I was playing it, you were playing it couch co-op with me, and we were paying attention to story. Mostly we were paying attention to how the fuck do you play a game like this? And then every time I replayed with you, we weren't focused on story, but I was always so frustrated. I was like, but I want to know what's happening. I want to pay attention. And so I remember during the pandemic, while you were working on your thesis and we were trapped at home, I was like, what am I going to do? And so I played all of Diablo 3 and paid attention to every single story beat. And that was really, really fun. And I was really into the story, but it was also a little bit tedious. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think I like if the story is good and compelling, I want to pay attention and I'm not going to skip through things. If the story is kind of I don't mind skipping through it, especially if I'm really, really enjoying the gameplay. All that to say, if the gameplay is not good, I will not play the game. I don't care how good the story is.
Yeah.
I'm not going to suffer through a clunky game if it just to get to the story.
I feel like that's the same way you view comics. Where it doesn't, for you, it doesn't matter how good the writing is.
Yeah, if the art style sucks, I'm not going to read it. I will not turn a page if I don't like the art. Like, goodbye.
Because I mean, I've been gaming a lot longer and deeper than you have.
Yeah.
But there are story games that I've played that I will hold up against any other artistic medium for being the best storytelling ever done. I mean, God of War, we keep mentioning.
Yeah.
And I'm trying not to spoil you because you're I don't know, a third of the way in now.
Through, yeah. Mm-hmm.
But that is one of the best pieces of storytelling I've ever come across.
I mean, so far it's fantastic.
And I ate up every single word from every side quest, from every character. I devoured that game.
Yeah.
Even something like Marvel's Spider-Man, the PS4 game.
Yeah.
That was incredible. I cried at that. I cried like a baby through Red Dead Redemption 2.
You cry at like every game. I'm sorry to say. If the story is good, you're going to cry.
But Red Dead was like a 60-hour sprawling open world.
You loved that game.
And that was immaculate.
Yeah.
So it's not that I don't have the capacity for it. For some reason, I think it's a genre thing.
Well, here's the thing. Did you like the gameplay in Red Dead 2?
Yes, but I liked the story more.
Interesting, because like the gameplay in God of War is fantastic, and the story is good. Like that thing's it's 100%
firing on all cylinders.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, have you ever played a game where you're compelled by the story, but the gameplay's kind of but you keep going because you want to know you're invested in the story?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's like all Bethesda games.
Okay. Yeah, like Starfield. Or okay,
or Fallout or Skyrim. And I think that's a lot of people like the ability to, because those games are so open-ended, I think they like the ability to kind of pave their own way and almost craft their own story within that world.
Interesting.
And gameplay usually comes second for that.
Because like I've tried Skyrim many times, and I'm really interested in the world and the story, but I hate the gameplay. I also don't like open world, but that's a separate thing.
Yeah.
But okay.
Yeah, I think I'm very gameplay focused.
Okay,
and
I think first I'm also gameplay focused, but the story is also really important to me.
I've been chasing the dragon of like great Diablo gameplay for so long because I've exhausted the ones I have access to.
Yeah.
That I've played so many ARPGs that are not good.
Yeah.
And Path of Exile is absolutely my favorite one I've found.
Wow.
That isn't made by Blizzard.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so it's a fantastic game. But I already made the infographic for this episode, and it's "make it yours" is the phrase that I put on there, and I think that's where I've landed with ARPGs.
And I think that's totally fine. Like, it's frustrating if somebody who's experiencing a work of art, watching it, playing it, looking at it, whatever. If somebody is not experiencing it the way the artist intended, that's a little frustrating. Especially for the artist, right? Or artists, plural, game developers. But if you're still able to enjoy it in your own way, then that's amazing, you know? Like, think about yourself. Cam, you're a creator, you're a writer, you're an illustrator, you make all kinds of things. Even if somebody's not reading or listening to or consuming your thing the way you wanted to, but they're still enjoying it, aren't you happy at the end of the day? That's still a win.
Yes, I think so. And I, even that sort of ties back into what we do here with Second Breakfast, because when we started, I used to think of it as sort of encyclopedic, where if we're going to do an episode on a work of art, that I want that to be sort of my final word on that work of art. So anything valuable or important I have to say about that, anything novel or interesting, I need to distill all of that into the notes for that episode to make that comprehensive.
Yeah.
And that it's impossible.
Of course,
right?
it's impossible. Especially because you're constantly rethinking and reimagining and reconsidering.
And growing with a work of art.
Yeah.
And growing past it, meeting it at different points in your life. It's an impossible mountain to climb once. Never mind twice a week for 3.5 years.
Right.
And the thing I get now is if I have one interesting thing or angle, something to add to a larger discussion beyond me, the whole internet. I mean, look at the hundreds of comments on our previous Path of Exile video. That is an amazing, supportive, broad, deep community. And if I can add one little thing to that, then that's worth it.
Right.
It doesn't need to be every thought I've ever had about Path of Exile.
Of course. Well, and I think it's refreshing to hear a perspective that's not just like that's welcoming the opportunity to play it in a way that maybe isn't like its purest form or whatever. Like you don't have to like be a diehard Path of Exile fan, know every single thing about it, and know all the story beats and perfectly appreciate it in the right way to be a fan of the game. You know?
There's this, and maybe we can wrap up here, but there's this kind of line, there's this divide between hardcore players and casual players.
Yeah.
And I've always been interested in that divide
Yeah.
because I'm not a casual player of many RPGs. If I like it, I'm hardcore.
Yeah, and you
I've got-
play it.
I've got like a lot of hours in Destiny.
I know. You've played that game.
It's a lot of hours. I don't remember the last time I looked, but it's, like a month worth of hours. It counts it in days now.
like a month straight. Yeah.
Last time I think it was like 28 days worth of hours, which I physically can't do the math on that, or I can't stop. I can't keep doing the show. But
you want me to do the math for you real quick? Dear listener, that is 672 hours.
Oh boy. But like that puts me past the casual point. But hardcore can be the 5,000 hour people.
Yeah.
And what I consider myself is like a hardcore casual.
Hardcore light.
I'm going to play it my way forever. Not the way it's supposed to be, and not casually, but my way forever.
Forever, yeah.
And I think I'm getting to that point with Path of Exile.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm also kind of thinking about endgame stuff. Like with Diablo 3, for example, you've replayed that 1,000 times. Not just like you've played endgame stuff. You've replayed the campaign 1,000 times. Also because the best part of Diablo 3 is the campaign.
Yeah.
Like that's the best part, right? Even though it's like goofy and silly and not the best story ever. Still fun. But it seems like Path of Exile is designed that if you've quote, completed the game, you've completed all the acts, maybe you've started to dip into endgame content, and it's been a few months since you've played and you want to get back into it and pick it back up, there's still tons of endgame content that you can just dip into versus having to like go back and replay the game. Here's a question. In Diablo 4, when you've completed the campaign, you can roll a new character and jump straight into endgame content, right?
Endgame or seasonal.
Yeah, I know you can do seasonal, but endgame as well? Is that right? You can skip the campaign if you've already played
Diablo?
it once? Yes.
Yeah, but you're going to have to level up some.
Well, sure. I'm just saying.
Yes.
So like
you can skip the campaign.
Can you do that in Path of Exile? Or do you have to play all 10 acts?
I don't know. I know there is seasonal content, but I guess that's another blind spot just because I'm so not there yet.
Okay, well, Path of Exile experts, tell us down below. Do you have to replay all 10 acts of the campaign to do a new class of do a new build, or can you just jump straight into endgame? Because
that was the thing that really chapped my ass about Diablo 4, because Diablo 4 is a lot like Destiny 2. And I think the more we play of endgame stuff, the more I see that comparison directly. But I like Destiny because I can use the character I've put 28 days into on every new season. Yeah. And on every new expansion. Yeah. And when I found out I was going to have to re-roll my character for every season and new story bit for Diablo. Yeah. That seemed terrible.
Yeah, that's different. Yeah, that's like a separate thing.
So I don't know the answer to your question.
Interesting. Yet, okay. Well, I'm sure our listeners will know down below. So let us know. I'm curious about that.
Almost a third of the way through the tutorial.
But that's a two-pronged question. Number one, if you want to roll a new character after you've beaten the campaign, do you have to replay the campaign? Number two, if there's a new season or an expansion or whatever, can you keep a character you've already been leveling up and building, or do you have to start fresh? Those are kind of two questions. I'm curious.
To repeat my question as we close out here is, how do you play Path of Exile and ARPGs in general? Yeah. Thank you for joining us. This was fun. Do you think you're any more convinced to play the game?
I do want to play it. Like, genuinely. I'm one of those people.
You're busy.
Like, it's not even that. I mean, I am busy, but like, not really.
You're stubborn.
Compared to a lot of people, I'm not. I'm very much a mood reader, mood player. Like, if you give me a book for my birthday, I may not read it for 5 years. That doesn't mean I'm not interested in playing and reading the book. Like, I'm really excited about the book. I'm not in the mood. And that's what's happening right now, is I'm also working through other games and other things, but I do really want to play this game. But yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there. Maybe once you've beaten the whole thing, then I'll maybe explore playing.
That'll be a while.
Maybe
it'll be 3 or 4 more episodes.
Maybe if they add couch co-op, then I'll play it with you. We'll see.
I think maybe they would do that for the sequel. At this point, that would be weird to do for this one.
Because I would love to play it alongside you and like have you kind of guide me around. Yes. Like, that's what I loved about playing Diablo 3 with you the first time.
When Tristan brought me into Diablo 3, if there hadn't been couch co-op, I never would have gotten into that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I have so many great memories with both of you through the Diablo games.
Which memories are better? Tell us now.
Which what?
Which memories are better? Tristan, comment down below.
And reducing him to a comment. Okay, well, if you want more of these glorious discussions, we have new episodes every single Tuesday and Friday. We just started a huge series that we'll be doing every Friday till the end of time, where we're going through Game of Thrones chapter by chapter. We did that for Lord of the Rings, we did that for the Witcher series, and now this is our third long-form literary adventure that we just began with George R. Martin's world.
And this is the first time we're putting it on YouTube.
Yes,
because
exactly.
all of our other episodes exist here on YouTube, but our fantasy discussions had not until now.
Correct.
So.
And on Tuesdays, it's the wild card. It's anything else, any other movie or game or painting or whatever, any other work of art that touches us. That's what we reserve for Tuesdays. If you want even more content, you can go over to patreon.com/secondbreakfastpod. And there we do a bonus episode every month, an exclusive bonus episode, and you get access to the back catalog of a year and a half of all of our other bonus episodes that are stacked up there, that little catalog.
And lately we've been doing these little breakfast buffets where we talk about multiple works of art all in like one big discussion, kind of just like a round table of stuff that we haven't been able to fit into a full episode, but still want to talk about.
Yeah,
so.
like we talked in the month of November, we did 2 of those buffet episodes,
Yeah, we did.
each talking about 7 different works of art. And together that was like 2 hours of bonus content right there. So
it was fun.
It's a lot of fun. $2 a month, support the show, and get access to a whole heaping pile of exclusive episodes
also,
and other content.
If you have been listening to our Diablo 4 content, we've been teasing, and I think I want to do this, Cam. We're decorating for Christmas this weekend. Remember what we talked about having our Christmas tree of whispers? If you want to make it, if you want your head to be on our Christmas tree of whispers, join the Patreon. Links down below.
I forgot about that.
We got to figure out how we want to
do too many of these.
Yeah, we
All
do.
right.
All right.
See you on Friday.
Bye.
Have a good week. Yeah, I almost said weekend. I caught it. Did you see? Do you hear me catch it there?
I'm really proud of you. You did it.
All right. My mouth is collapsing. See you in a few days. Bye.